Life will eventually bring you to your knees. Either you'll be on your knees, cursing the universe and begging for a different life, or you'll be brought to your knees by gratitude and awe, deeply embracing the life that you have, too overwhelmed by the beauty of it all to stand or even speak. Either way, they're the same knees. These words, written by Jeff Foster, really touched me because I know what it's like to be brought to my knees. Here's a snapshot. I'm 21 years old, soon to graduate from college, and I am terrified of the great unknown that lay beyond graduation, and no one is offering very much help. The man that I am in love with has just informed me, with enthusiasm, that he wants to marry his best friend from childhood, who, for the record, is not me. And I just got off the phone with my doctor, who told me I have cancer. I'm terrified, despondent, and alone. There's a weight on my chest like an anvil and a knot in my throat that would make a sailor proud. The mood is quiet desperation of wanting to merge with the earth and disappear, of being knocked to my knees. During this same time, I'm reading everything I can get my hands on about mindfulness, because somehow in the midst of all this pain, I can tell that learning to be present is important. It's just that my mind keeps coming in and taking the task of being present and turning it into a feat of unimaginable complexity. Looking back, I can see that complexity arose from a very innocent misunderstanding. I thought that learning to be present was going to take away my pain. I thought that learning to be present was going to heal my broken heart and offer me a career path and take away my fear of dying. I thought that learning to be present was going to absolve me of all of my inconvenient, unpleasant emotions and deliver me to a nirvana land of eternal bliss. I spent many years suffering in that misunderstanding, in deep resistance to my pain, and ultimately to being present and alive. Many years. I'd like to save you some time. I'm here today to talk about 3 principles of presence. Number 1, presence is the difference between pain and suffering. Number 2, being present is simple, but not easy. And number 3, it helps to have help. So let's begin. Presence is the difference between pain and suffering. As I was preparing for this talk, I was driving in my car and it started to rain. I mean, really rain, like torrential rain, cats and dogs, raining buckets, metaphoric choice, and the wind was blowing and whipping the water in every direction, so much so that it was hard to see very far beyond my windshield, and it was cold, really cold. So cold, in fact, that in the middle of July, I turned the heat on in my car. And outside in this rain, there was a woman, drenched from head to toe. There's no way she was anything other than completely soaked to the bone. and she had this umbrella that had been blown inside out by the wind, like in a cartoon, and she's gripping to this umbrella with white knuckles and tension in her face and in her neck and in her back, and she's gripping to this broken, useless umbrella in deep resistance to her already soaking wetness. This is the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is getting caught in a torrential downpour on a cold day and being soaked to the bone. Suffering is gripping with tension to a broken, useless umbrella. Pain is unwanted, unpleasant, unwelcome experience. Suffering is everything that we do to avoid feeling pain. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. My path to becoming a mindfulness-based therapist arose from a deepening understanding that everything we do to avoid feeling pain ultimately leads to suffering, which is a great realization, but then what's the alternative? Instead of resisting our experience, we learn to be present to it. And this is the key to eliminating suffering, because when we finally stop avoiding our experience, we discover that there's space to be alive. So what does it mean to be present? Simple. Just notice. In fact, give it a try right now. Just notice what is already happening inside of you and allow that to be. Notice your thoughts, your feelings, any physical sensations in your body, and just let them be. Just notice. Simple. Which brings us to presence principle number 2. Being present is simple, but not easy. Being present is simple, but not easy, because when I first sit to be present, everything that I've been distracting myself from rushes to the surface for my attention. And this, initially, feels like an increase in pain. So I go back to distracting. Simple but not easy, because we are well trained in the art of distraction. Whether it's watching TV or shopping, eating chocolate or having sex, avoiding conflict or inciting conflict, drinking alcohol or talking about spirituality. To be clear, I'm not suggesting that any of these things is inherently a distraction. It's a matter of usage. Do I eat chocolate to savor its sweet earthiness? Or do I reach for chocolate in a moment of stress to avoid my experience? Do I sit to meditate to welcome whatever is already happening right here, right now? Or does meditation itself become yet another one of those ways that I abandon myself in favor of anywhere but here and now? All of the ways that we distract ourselves from our pain function like addictions. We feel the scritchy pain or discomfort arise, and we reach for our addiction of choice. So learning to be present is simple but not easy, in the same way that letting go of any addiction is simple but not easy. How do I stop drinking? Simple. Just stop. Don't pour another drink. but not easy. Because in not drinking, I now have to experience all of the things I've been distracting myself from by drinking. So you may be wondering, if being present increases our experience of pain, why would anyone choose to be present? Good question. Because the alternative is suffering. Because on the other side of the pain is a vast and spacious sense of wholeness that is capable of holding all of our experience, including our pain, that can only be reached by being with our pain. Because when you're already soaking wet in a rainstorm, it is far easier to set down your umbrella, relax your muscles, and just experience being wet. So presence is the difference between pain and suffering. And being present is simple, but not easy. This is where the power of support comes in. Presence principle number 3. It helps to have help. It helps to have help so that when I initially feel that sense of overwhelm, I don't have to be with it all by myself, without having someone to learn with. I don't have to suddenly be a master of being present. It helps to have help because an outside observer will notice things about you that you yourself cannot see. The subtle, less obvious ways that you distract yourself from your present experience. And it helps to have help because my being in presence invites your presence to come forward. It's simply easier. As a mindfulness-based therapist, I am passionate about offering support. It helps to have help. I can help. I want to support you in bringing more presence into your daily life. I invite you to visit my website and learn more about the power of mindfulness-based therapy. And while you're there, sign up for my e-postcards for a weekly message from the field of presence. Because it helps to have help. And because being present isn't a luxury. It's an essential activity of being human. Learning to be present won't take away the reality of pain in the world, but it will eliminate the unnecessary suffering that arises from trying to avoid pain. Learning to be present won't protect you from a broken heart, or prevent those you love from dying, or offer you lifetime job security. Nothing can do that. But it will allow you to face those conditions with grace. It will allow you to remain in precious contact with your own self. It will allow you to experience yourself as something very vast. It will allow you to set down your broken umbrella and be wet. And it will alter your experience of being brought to your knees. Because life will eventually bring you to your knees. Either cursing the universe and begging for a different life, or deeply embracing the life that you have. Either way, they're the same knees.